Despite their incompetence, the Republican Party is likely to win the Senate back this year. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today it is time to talk about the 2024 US Senate elections because there has been this narrative created the past couple of months from Democrats and some quote-unquote Republicans that despite this quite possibly being the best set of circumstances the Republican Party has ever had, at least when it comes to the Senate, despite that, somehow Republicans are going to magically fail to take back the Senate. Yeah, Democrats actually believe that. Not in a manner of, oh, Democrats might keep the Senate, Republicans might gain it. No, they are straight up saying Republicans have no pathway to the Senate, Democrats are the clear favorites, and all of that. So we're going to take a look at this narrative and explain why it's complete BS. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, let us get into it because I cannot believe that Democrats really believe that Republicans are somehow going to lose the Senate this year. Like, wait, what? They actually believe, despite everything, on paper at least, favoring Republicans, they're not going to take back the Senate? Well, CNN of all places released a brand new article just yesterday that details why Republicans are actually the clear favorites to win back the Senate this year. So let's get into it. The race for the White House hogs most of the attention in the presidential election year, relegating the race for Congress to ugly stepsister status. But in recent years, we've all learned how important down-ballot races can be in shaping American policy. That's especially true for the Senate, which is responsible for the confirmations of government officials and Supreme Court nominees, and that's why the Senate will always be more critical than the House. Yes, it's nice to win back the House. It is always nice to have both chambers of Congress. Obviously, you always want both chambers, so you can pass a lot more of your agenda. But if you had to pick from one of the two, the House or the Senate, you would always pick the Senate because the House, yeah, it's important, but the Senate actually decides Supreme Court nominees. It decides government officials, such as, Secretary of State, Attorney General, etc. That's why they're important. And that's why Republicans have to win the Senate this fall. Because if Democrats somehow take back the Senate, like let's say they keep the majority somehow, Trump would not be able to confirm a Supreme Court justice if, let's say, Clarence Thomas retired or something crazy occurred. You don't want to run the risk of that occurring. That's why Republicans have to take back the Senate. In this year's battle for the Senate, like so many cycles before, we have the same competing forces. The election fundamentals favor Republicans, while candidate quality appears to favor Democrats, who currently hold a narrow majority in the chamber. Candidate quality. We're back to this narrative again. How do you decide what's a good candidate or not? I know sometimes it's obvious who's a good recruit and who's a bad one, but it's like, okay, who gets to decide if Tim Sheehy is a strong recruit or not? How? How can you decide that? You can't. For example, John Fetterman technically is a strong candidate. Despite having no brain, he won, so therefore he's a strong recruit. That's why I've always hated this narrative of candidate quality. Yes, sometimes it's obvious who's the better candidate, who's a better choice. I understand that. But being moderate doesn't automatically mean you're a quality candidate. Running a good campaign means you're a quality candidate. That's what people gotta understand. Running a good campaign means a lot more than being moderate or electable. For now, though, it appears even flawed Republican candidates likely won't be able to stop their side from winning Senate control. Democrats face two problems: the math and the map. Let's start with the math. Republicans need a net gain of 1 seat to win the Senate if Trump wins the presidency, with his vice president casting any tie-breaking votes. They need a net gain of 2 seats for majority regardless of who wins a presidential election. And right off the bat, yeah, Republicans need 1 seat if Trump wins. And let's face it, there is no way in hell Republicans don't gain 1 seat. They're going to win the West Virginia Senate seat. And already, if Trump's the president, Republicans technically have the majority. Now, you do got to deal with Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, but at the bare minimum, you're going to have a majority with the tie-breaking vote. That's the first problem. If Trump wins, Republicans have the Senate. Now, it goes both ways. If it's 50-50 and Biden wins, yeah, Democrats have the Senate as well. But right now, Trump's the favorite. So that's the first major problem. Even if Republicans fail in Ohio, Montana, etc., that still is not enough for Democrats to take back the Senate if Trump wins. Republicans have a lot of options to net those 2 seats. Senate Democrats, including independents who caucus with them, hold 23 seats up for election this year. Republicans hold 11. This brings us to the map. 8 of the 23 Democratic seats up for election this year are in states either where Trump won in 2016 or where he is up by at least 5 points in the polls now. Yeah, 8 of the 23. States like Ohio, Montana, they're deep red states. But even states like Nevada, Arizona, Trump is polling pretty damn good there. Even in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Back in 2016, he won those states. That's quite frankly, one of the biggest problems Democrats have. They just have too many Senate seats up for election this year. We're not talking about, 15 of the 34 Democrat. No, 23 of the 34 are Democrat seats. And the large chunk of them are in swing states, or hell, even deep red states like West Virginia, Ohio, Montana. Or in states where Trump is polling damn well in, like Nevada. 5 of them are in states where Trump holds at least a 5-point advantage. 3 are in states where Trump won by at least 8 points in 2016 and 2020, and where the incumbent senator is the only Democrat in non-judicial statewide office. That's states like Ohio, Montana, West Virginia. Basic math. How are Democrats supposed to keep every single one of these seats? It would be a lot easier for Democrats if they had a realistic shot at flipping any of the Republican seats. The most realistic option they got is Texas, and Ted Cruz is going to win. So you're out of options. You have no place to make a gain in. Mathematically speaking, that means you're not going to take back the Senate. You just can't. Under those circumstances, you have no pathway to victory. Plus, like I said, in West Virginia, Joe Manchin retired. That's an automatic flip. That's a state Trump won by 40. Jim Justice is going to be the next senator of West Virginia. There are only 2 Republican Senate seats being targeted by Democrats, Florida and Texas. And like I said, Republicans are not going to lose either one of them, especially Florida. Rick Scott's going to win. It's going to be closer than Trump, but he's going to win by his largest margin ever. He wins by a point or so every time, but this time he should win by like 5 or 6 points. Every other Republican-held seat on the ballot this year is in a state where the GOP presidential candidates have dominated since 2012. It's no wonder that my colleague Simeon Path had only 1 Republican seat on her most recent list of the 10 Senate seats most likely to flip this year, and that was a number 10. Yeah, number 10. That means every single one of those Democrat states we were talking about beforehand, states like Montana, Wisconsin, Nevada, etc., they're much more likely to flip than Texas, the only Republican seat that has even a small, but I guess a realistic chance of flipping, in quotation. But is the race for the Senate really over if Democrats just win West Virginia? No, we can't call it just yet, and it's not because we're still months before the general election. It's because if Biden does win, a real possibility, it's not entirely clear which Senate seat Republicans will pick up to gain control, which that's fine. That's a fine argument that, all right, if Biden does somehow win, maybe that means Democrats are doing a lot better than expected. But that's like best case scenario. That's if everything goes right, then yeah, Democrats probably get the Senate back. But the problem is, that's best case scenario. That's not a realistic option where everything goes right, Democrats don't lose any of those states that Trump is doing well in right now or won in 2020 by 8 points or so. That is so unlikely to occur. Among the 8 Democratic Senate seats mentioned above, there are no states beyond West Virginia where the polls show Republicans with a solid lead, despite the fundamentals favoring their party this year. Democratic Senate candidates seem to be at least tied or ahead in Arizona, Michigan, Montana, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. But that's misleading. I understand people are going to say, oh, but the polls, you love the polls. That means you must trust them. I'm not saying to worship the polls. I never did. Even with the Trump polls that have them up by a lot, I'm still saying, chill out a little bit. Especially these Senate polls, because states like, for example, Ohio. Sherrod Brown has been there for 20 years. He's the incumbent. Yeah, of course, early on, especially in Ohio, the one state that every cycle, Republicans do horrific early on in polling. They get crushed by 10 points. They do awful. But then when it becomes October, suddenly the polling flips to the Republicans and they end up winning. Now, is that a guarantee that's going to happen this time? No. But Sherrod Brown has universal name ID versus Bernie Moreno, who, yeah, he won the nomination in convincing fashion. There still were some serious challengers on the Republican side. And he still doesn't have the same name recognition as Brown, despite just winning the Senate primary. It's going to be a couple months before voters in Ohio really decide between Brown and Moreno. And the remaining undecideds, especially in Ohio, they are so likely to vote for Trump. Just look at the demographics of them. It's like 80% of them are Republicans in some circumstances. Yeah, I wonder who they're going to vote for, Moreno or Brown. That's the problem Democrats have. Even in Montana, the same thing's occurring. Yeah, Tester has a small lead, but not only is Tim Sheehy still not as known, when you dig into the numbers, the remaining undecideds have them being more Republican. They're going to obviously break for, in that case, Sheehy. Even states like Wisconsin, the same thing's occurring. Eric Hovde doesn't have name ID. Everyone knows who Tammy Baldwin is. It just keeps going. It's a bit misleading. But I do agree that, all right, it's starting to get into June. Maybe we should be polling a little bit better in places like Ohio. I agree with that. Fine. But to say that this is a sign that Democrats are going to take back the Senate, I disagree with it. Especially if Trump is doing that well in states like Montana, Ohio. And the fact that many undecideds remain, and they actually benefit Republicans, well, there you go. That's how Moreno being down by, let's say, 3 points probably means if the undecideds really break the way we expect them to, has them up by actually 1 or 2 points when you adjust for that. But either way, it is still technically early. We are in May. I understand that things could theoretically change, but the more you look at these polls, when you dig into the polling, you realize, yeah, on the top line, yeah, Democrats are the favorites, according to the top line, but when you dig into the numbers further, you realize real quickly, Democrats are starting to get maxed out in most of these states, even states like Arizona. Gallego's at 49% according to the recent polls, but you dig into the numbers, he might be capped there. The remaining undecideds are Trump voters. But we just got to see what happens. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.